Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Kol Halayim La Yahweh Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Rachaha Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders at Great Millstone. Peace, blessings, and salutations to the hopefully elect. It's the brother Isaiah with the Pittsburgh GMS camp coming at you with another lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Lord willing is edifying to the lambs of Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai and sufficient for a quick meal through the spirit, a spiritual meal. All right. Be not hasty in your own understandings. Okay. The scriptures say, lean not unto your own understanding. Okay, let's get that precept. I wasn't planning on bringing it out. I'm going to rewind this clip here in a second. We'll play it. Lean not. Let's just see if that comes up. Proverbs 3:5 says, trust in Yahweh with all thine heart and lean not unto thine own understanding. I would like to preface this lesson by saying this is a faith-based ministry. There are things in the scriptures that prove and solidify our faith. But as the scriptures say, let's see here, faith is what? Faith is the evidence. Let's see if this comes up, if I typed it right. Hebrews 11:1 says, faith is the substance. The faith itself is the substance. It's the thing that is substantial for the things that we hope for. Okay, the evidence of things not seen. The faith itself is the substance and the evidence. Okay, if faith is not enough for you, then this truth will not be enough for you. But there are many things scripturally and physically that back up, okay, what we're saying. But the Lord set a lot of these things up that they're far-fetched. There's a lot of things set up that they're going to be far-fetched because Esau, Edom, the spiritual counterpart, the spiritual descendant of the serpent, okay, he whose workings is after Satan, okay, he is sent to deceive. You know, that's his job. Okay, I mean, there's scriptures on that. Let's see if we can get the word Satan. I want to get this primarily in the book, in the New Testament, if it'll come up. I don't see it. Let's go into the dictionaries, or maybe even the lexicon. Satan. That's in the adversary. That's in the Old Testament. Let's get one of these. Satanias. The adversary, one who opposes. Okay, circumventing men by his wiles. Okay, a Satan-like man. Okay, a Satan-like man. There's another one too, right? Let's get the devil. Let's get the devil. Damn devil. Inside joke. All right, lexicon. Devil, false accuser. Let's get diabolos, see what that says. Fully. Okay, metaphorically applied to a man who by opposing the cause of God may be said to act the part of the devil or side with him. That's a particular precept. Boom. Wait, no, that's not it. It's gonna be 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. Or is it 1 Thessalonians? No, this is right. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 in verse 8. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. So like, yeah, we're gonna get to the point. All right, lessons within lessons. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders. This is the devil's job. Okay, and I want to get this. I never spell this word right, you know, because the English language, right? I think the E goes before the I. DECEIVE. That'll bring it up, right? I really want the New Testament in the book of Revelations. No, yep, here we go. Revelation 20 and verse 3. Matter of fact, let's go to verse 1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. Now for the believers, this has been broken down. This is a dark saying. This is not easy to understand, right? It says, and he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. Now, if we go to Strong's again, right? You got the devil, which should be Diabolos that we broke, right? Which metaphorically goes into what? A man, right? Then we go into, let's see, that was Diabolos. We got Satan, I read that, which also, adversary, a Satan-like man, right? These all could be a man, right? And it is referring to a man, or I should say a group of men, okay, which is the devil, the old dragon, right? A dragon, that's a name for Satan, which we went into what Satan is, okay? Satan ain't just talking about the spiritual demon Satan, honestly, okay? But we went into that. Now, it says, and he bound him 1,000 years, okay, and cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up and set a seal upon him that he should deceive the nations no more. Now we understand through the breakdowns that this represents the Edomites being put into captivity during the time of what they like to call the Dark Ages, okay, during the time of the Holy Roman Empire, which is when so-called blacks, okay, were ruling in the land of in the Roman lands, okay, and what they call Asia Minor. But that also too must be believed by faith. Yes, we have proof. We have proof, okay? We have things like the Russian icons. Okay? This is substantial proof. Look at these ancient images of so-called black people. Okay? What is this? Okay? Why are there two so-called black men on the front of this book called the Russian icons, when black people ruled the world? Okay, so you must understand, all right, but you have two varying, you have these older, more authentic looking that have depictions of so-called black people, and then you have these newer whitewashed. Look how different these look. You see, these look ancient. You can see the deterioration. You can see the authenticity. But look at this. This looks brand new. So why are there two different ones? You see what I'm saying? You know? Look at this one. You got this depicting, which even the hand signs kind of go off, which during the Holy Roman Empire, you had people like Constantine, which were mixing the faith with pagan situations, right? But look, but the point is being made here, all right? But that you have to believe through faith. To the let's get this right. Then we'll play the clip. Salaki, his ways are plain unto the holy. So the Lord did this on purpose. The Lord did this on purpose to jack people up, to make you think that it's impossible that it's true. Ecclesiastes 39:24 says, as his ways are plain unto the holy, so are they stumbling blocks unto the wicked. Now ultimately this guy must have been deemed wicked. And he kind of looks familiar. But he linked up with vocab, right? So let's play. I'm gonna play the full thing, right? It's vomit. He's spewing vomit, man. So be warned. All right, be warned. And to water to the elder, Holy Bible defenders for this clip, man. Through the Spirit. Make sure the audio is being picked up.
What really made me say, you know what, I'm done with this whole Hebrew Israelite thing was when I got out of the camp, I began to research the early Christian church, because that's a very, very important piece, you know, that you, anybody who, you know, you want to call yourself a Christian, it's very, very important to study you know,
He went straight back to lineups.
the early church history, you know, to figure out, you know, what was it that the disciples taught and what was it that was being followed, you know.
You know, and the average person will see this and be like, he looks happy. Well, yeah, the truth is a burden to a fool. You know, of course, it's going to be heavy unto you, which ultimately the scriptures say, he that increaseth in knowledge increaseth in sorrow. So there is a certain sadness that comes with the truth. Okay, you know, the heart of the fools is in the house of mirth, and the heart of the wise is in the house of mourning. So, you know, a lot of these individuals, they look, you know, they go get a job, and you know what I'm saying, but they're through. They're going to receive their reward on this side, and they're going to be destroyed. All right. We would rather have that heaviness, as the scriptures say, and that anger, because the scriptures say, surely oppression maketh a wise man mad, than to have pleasure and peace, so to speak, and happiness in the world, which is going to be, that shit's going to be short-lived. Okay. Hey, we're in the times of trouble. So people like this, they don't got no, all that, as the scriptures say, there's a certain waiting for death. That's the only thing he has to wait for, is destruction.
So that's what I began to research, and really, you know, after I saw the tremendous amount of information that anybody can just Google, you can just, you know, you can find this stuff. It's really, really easy. That's what really led me to say, you know what, I'm done with these, you know, these crazy doctrines. I can't keep claiming something that cannot be proven, you know.
And that's why I started off the lesson, Salakia. That statement he just made right there about claiming something that can't be proven, and you know, that's why I did that about faith, about this thing ultimately being faith-based. But you can prove it, and we're gonna prove something after he makes his next statement.
IUIC and other camps to say, nah, we got the scriptures on our side.
And look at a young vocab.
Is bring forth the word of the Most High. It speaks for
the young devil himself.
Itself, the history that you refer to has been whitewashed. It's been
the young smooth-faced devil
taken over by westernized, Eurocentric minds. And so we have our own scholars, and we've uncovered the truth about history. That's there if you just look hard enough, you know. They would say something like that. And you even mentioned a man in our previous conversation.
And he set up to cast doubt, because we just went over the history. He's talking. He's making mockery. Oh, you know, there's the history if you look hard enough. Well, there is. The Russian icons are there, but you have to believe through faith. See, the Lord set it up where there's two opposing forces. You got good versus evil. You got the so-called white man versus the so-called black man, which there are no white or black men, so to speak, right? No one's walking around the color of these words or the color of this background. No one on the earth is this color, devoid of light, or this color. You see what I'm saying? Nobody's those colors. Those are social constructs. All right.
Conversation who you viewed as one of the more studious members of IUIC, who sometimes speaks in the meetings they have on the video. I mean, you know what they would say to what you just said.
What I would say, man, is I mean, everybody has to do their own due diligence in searching, you know, the scriptures. You cannot rely on what someone teaches you, and you know what someone is saying. You have to do the research for yourself.
This is true to a degree. It is not only want to say to a degree. It's true, but you have to be in the right spirit. As the scriptures say, the Bereans were more excellent than those at Thessalonica, because they studied the scriptures daily to see whether or not these things were true. This is correct, but you have to be careful. You got to be real careful, because, and you have to, and this is why I entitled the lesson, "Be not hasty in your own understanding," because sometimes there are things that come out that you may not be sure about, but you have to understand that we have been lied to about what the Bible means for so long, and we've been taught what the Bible means by our oppressors, by his scholars and his group of people that got together and said, this is what the Bible really means. And they've been doing it for 2,000 plus years. They've dictated and decided what was true and what was false. But now in these times, the real understanding of the Bible is being brought out. Okay, and we're gonna prove that our elders were correct through the Spirit. Okay,
and
And yes, there's possible differences of understanding, but just bear with me.
Honest in your research. Don't don't look to find information that's going to just back up your particular doctrine and what you're trying to push. But do honest research.
Now, like he says right here, honestly, that's what everyone does, and this is true. All right, this is true. But this is what the Bereans did to see whether or not these things were true. You don't want to come into it with the mindset of, oh, they lying, I'm gonna try to find a way to prove. If you go looking, you're gonna find what you're looking for through the Spirit. If you're looking to prove the Israelites wrong, you're gonna find something that might justify what you believe. Okay, but that doesn't mean what you found is correct, if that makes sense. Just because you found something in the English, or you found a certain definition for a word that backs up, that you can cling to and say, see, they was wrong. But likewise, I'm gonna show you today that you can find things to justify in that same definition. You can find things to justify the doctrine that's being taught. And so this is why you can't rely on the English, and you have to really rely on the Holy Spirit. And I'm going to show you precept upon precept that this guy's in the wrong. He's full of shit. Okay, I don't know this guy, but these type of individuals out there to cast doubt. This is why they link up with people like the devil Malone. All right, and they try to sway you from the truth, man.
Research, and one thing that did it for me is understanding biblical criticism. Understanding the different criticisms that is really like disciplines of learning. When you're trying to learn the scriptures and trying to find the proper exegesis to a text, you have to understand these different factors. You can't
words.
Just go off of like what IUI. And
ultimately, you have to be guided. Essentially what they're telling you is to not be guided. But as the scriptures, as the Ethiopian eunuch said when he was approached by the apostle Peter, if I'm not mistaken, Peter asked him, hey, understand thou what thou readest? And he said, how can I except some man teach me? Right? And I would grab it, but I've already kind of prolonged this, and I'm still prolonging it when I have something to share. So I'm going to let it roll.
I see would do is like, they would pull scriptures like Jeremiah 14:2, Judah mourners, the gates thereof language, they are black into the ground. You see, brother, Judah is black. But it just looks really, really silly, because to anybody who studies Hebrew, or to any layman who simply knows how to navigate through, through
and you see his laughter. And but he doesn't understand.
Interlinear Bible or anything, they could easily look up that Hebrew word and see that it's a verb. It's not an adjective. They can see that word for black there is not literally talking about your skin color, but it's talking about a condition of of you being in a state of mourning. But
so let's address that. Okay, let's address that. I don't know what he's about to say, and I don't care. But let's get it. I got it here. He quoted it. Jeremiah 14:2, Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish. They are black unto the ground, and the cry of Jerusalem is gone up. Now, the only one that kind of backs up in the in the various translations of the Bible, which we're going to go into the Hebrew, and I want to show you something. Okay, if you're still here, bear with me. Baba Kashat, Jeremiah 14:2, in the English Revised Version says, Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof language. Now, what are the gates? The gates represent the ancient men of the city. Okay, the gates thereof language. They sit in black. No, this is what I wanted right here. I think it's World's English. They sit in black. I thought there was another one that says. So anyway, we're not gonna go into. They sit black in black. Okay, Salakia. They are black into the ground. So maybe I misread this earlier. So that's my fault. Okay, we're gonna skip this. All right, and trust me, this ain't nothing. This English, if anything, this is proven that the English will throw you off. They sit in black upon the ground. They sit in black. Okay, because why would they say outright that they are black? Right? They sit in black. They are black unto the ground. Now let's go into the blue letter. All right. Which I clicked into this. Jeremiah 14:2. All right. Black. H6937. It's Quadar. Quadar. To be blackish. Okay. Darken. To cause to mourn. To grow dark. All right. H6937. Quadar. And you got these Masoretic. You got these Masoretic vowel points, which is supposed to dictate how something is pronounced, which also dictates the definition. Now I'm gonna show you something. This same word is used somewhere else. Now you get all these different definitions. It says dull colored, which the devil is there to deceive you. He's gonna give you the wrong definition, darken, so on and so forth. Now, when you go into the Jacenius Hebrew Chaldee Lexicon, all right. Actually, two up here. It says to be ashy, i.e., dark colored, by implication to mourn. To be blackish, okay. What the first one is to be ashy, i.e., dark colored. Who get ashy? Who gets ashy? Now, we do understand that the aspect of the mourning, it is in there, right? But then when I scrolled down here, I saw the different derivatives, right? It says to be of a dirty, blackish color, as of a sunburnt skin, to be darkened as the day, so on and so forth, right? Jeremiah 14:2. And they try to, like I said, this is the Hebrew Chaldee Lexicon, and they try to dictate what it means, but there's several definitions. To cause to mourn, to darken, to be darkened. So it can mean any one of these according to the definition, if you poke around. Now down here it also says Quadar. So let's go into this word Quadar. Now here it says, I am black but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar. So let's get this word Kedar here, which is going to give us a different, Strong's, right? But it's the same word, but it has different dots, which dictates, again, like I said, what? That dictates the pronunciation, which according to these devils, dictates what it means. You got Quadar here. That's H6937. Then you got H6938. It's the same Hebrew characters, but what changes it? These few little dots. You got a couple dots here, and then there's some different dots here, which is supposed to, now what does it say here? It says dark. It says dusky of the skin or tint. Kedar, a son of Ishmael. So what's the scripture that I got this from? Songs of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 5. It says, I am black, but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Look not upon me, because I am black, because the sun hath looked upon me. So you're black because the sun looked on you. Are you sad when the sun looks on you? Is that what the black means? Because I'm sad because I was in the sun. Does that make sense? Or does it make sense that you grow darker when you're in the sun? Right? So these things are still true. Okay? Let's look up what are Masoretic. Okay, what are Masoretic? I guess we can say vowel points, which I think they apply to more than just the vowels. Masoretic vowel points, also known as Nikud, are a system of diacritical marks added to the Hebrew consonant to indicate vowels. These marks, consisting of dots and dashes, were developed by the Masoretes, the Khazars, the scribes who flourished between the 6th and 10th century CE. Their primary purpose was to conserve the correct pronunciation of the Hebrew Bible by representing vowel sounds. In its original form without vowels, they introduced vowels to standardize and clarify, ensuring that the text can be read accurately. Okay, and basically, it's important to note that the vowel points are a later addition to the text and were not part of the original writing. Some debate whether these are divinely inspired, as they were not present in the original text. And so essentially what they do, let's see if we can get an answer. Let's do Chat GPT. I'm gonna go over here and type it in. Right, Salakia, Chat GPT. Let's see if we can get that open. I don't know if it's gonna try to log me in or if it's automatically logged in. I don't know. I don't see my name nowhere. Hey, they got all this. I really don't need you to show all that. All right, let's go right here and let's type in how. Let's ask a question. Do Masoretic vowel points alter the understanding of the Hebrew words? Yes, they can significantly alter the understanding, pronunciation, and interpretation. Why? Because it was written without them. So many words can be read in multiple ways depending on context. The blah, 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 we read about this. To standardize interpretation based on oral tradition. Okay. 3 consonants, many meanings. Malak, king. Malak, with a different, he reigned. Malkut, which is Malak. It's kind of small. Let me which is Malak Wath, I think, which is kingdom. And then you got Yamalak, he will reign. Yeah, he reigns, or Yamalak, he king. Okay, but vowel points change tense, part of speech, and even grammatical structure. Okay, and so you see it, man. It says in biblical exegesis, that's the spirit, because that's the word that dude used, right? Exegesis. Vowel choices can affect theology, prophecy, and doctrine. Without it, many words are ambiguous and must be interpreted from context, precept upon precept, line upon line, with vowel points. It essentially locks in one interpretation out of several possible readings. So what you essentially have is that those vowel points, you get 2 definitions. You get Kadar, which is dark, which is a proper masculine noun, because you had this dude saying what? Well, it's a verb, and it's a verb, and okay, well, how do we know that the word that they chose, the way that they chose to write these vowel points is the way that the Lord intended this word to be defined? Okay? You see, how do we know that? That's where you go on the spirit. And it says to be ashy, i.e. dark colored. And in both of these, they refer to skin, dusky of the skin or the tint. Okay, now let's ask GPT. Now, Chat GPT ain't the end all be all of understandings, but let's ask this: what is the original understanding of the word dusky in reference to skin color? It says The word dusky in reference to skin color originally carried a descriptive but ambiguous and context-dependent meaning that has shifted over time, both linguistically, you see it. Etymology, dusky, dusk, meaning dark. Oh, I didn't think about that. From dusk till dawn, somewhat dark or shadowy, usually subdued light, twilight, dimness. In early English, dusky was used to describe people with medium to dark brown skin, especially those who were not white but not jet black either. Medium to dark brown skin. You see? All right. I am black. You see it? I am black but comely. But older translations and commentary sometimes rendered this as I am dusky. Okay. Dusky is outdated and often considered offensive or racially insensitive when used to describe skin color. This is because it reflects colonial gaze that exoticizes non-whites. Okay. Somewhat dark brown skin, non-European. A euphemism for black or brown skinned people. Okay. Archaic and racially insensitive when used for skin. So as we can see, okay, as we can see, that this word dusky in Song of Solomon's, the word kadar, dusky of the skin or tint. He's saying, I've been in the sun and I got dark skinned. All right. And, you know, Salakia, you know, and also, like I said, it could mean they mourn and things of that nature, you know. But people like this guy who, you know, were looking for a reason to disprove what he was taught. He found it. He found what he thought he found. But if you understood that you can't, the scriptures say, never trust thine enemies. And the so-called white man have dictated what he believed the definition of the scriptures is. And even if he don't believe it, he did it to trick you. To trick you so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. And it all goes back to, I'm going to close all this. It all goes back to whether or not you believe the basics of what the scriptures say. There are precepts set in place to remind you what you're dealing with. You got to remember what the book of Psalms says. And my throat's kind of starting to itch a little bit and I ain't got nothing to drink. Right? Psalms 83. You got to remember, man. Verse 3. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. Call along you lie Yahweh Bashem Yahushai by Hashem Barachaha Kodash. Double honor to the apostle elders of Great Millstone. Peace, blessing, salutation, hopefully Lake Shalom. Wa Abba Baba. Pray you were edified. Shalom.